Well, everyone, Samsung made a specific phone one time, and they've since never made this phone ever again, which is very crazy. And I'm not talking about recycling this phone. I'm talking about they made this lineup one time, and they completely stopped it, and we've not seen a successor since then. And this specific phone is the Samsung Galaxy S10e. Now, the E lineup, in my opinion, would have been one of the best lineups from Samsung, and I think that's why they cut it out, because it was probably cannibalizing a lot of the Samsung Galaxy S10 and made flagship, sales at that point. Now, one of the main things that I've been hearing is that the S20 FE, the FE lineup, was essentially the successor, but I would consider the FE lineup a completely different beast. First of all, it didn't come out the same time as the S20, where the S10e did, but also, there's a lot of advantages with the S20 FE, like it has a lot of capability, and I would consider the FE, it was already a lineup before, we had the Note FE at 1.2. The S10e, on the other hand, was a crazy good phone that I'm in love with, and I almost forget about it at times because the S10 was such a beautiful phone, but the S10e, for the price tag and for the capability, it was crazy in my opinion. Now, the front of beautiful 5.8-inch dynamic AMOLED display, it looked very good, hole punch display at that, and even comparing it to the S10 display, obviously it wasn't probably as good, but it was still a very good panel. And the one thing about this phone was the size. It was a fairly small sized phone, compared to a lot of other devices that came out, including the S10. It was a good sized feeling phone. And I think if, Samsung kind of continued on with this lineup of device with this, hand feeling in the phone, you know what I mean? Like the smaller phone, I think that would have been a really cool thing. But since Samsung makes so many devices, I can see why they axed this one, but it still would have been really cool. You have a hole punch display, like I mentioned, USB Type-C, headphone jack, and micro SD card slot. Crazy lineup on something like a budget phone that this kind of was, and that solid glass back with that dual camera setup. And that's the thing. In what way was this like less of a flagship phone? Like, I understand it's a smaller size, but it really wasn't missing out on anything, which is really impressive. I mean, you look at this and you look at the main flagship, the S21, this thing is surprisingly still looks, pretty good and comparable to the flagship of that time. And this thing has a lot of the things that the S21 also has, like a 1080p panel, hole punch display, USB Type-C, but the S21 doesn't have a headphone jack and no micro SD card slot, which that is the more important thing. But more importantly than that, I could sit here and talk about the cameras, which the cameras were also very, very good. 4K at 60 on the back and 4K at 60 on the front as well, which is really cool things to have, which was pretty similar to the S10 of the lineup. And one of the main important things I want to kind of, emphasize or whatever, is that the S10e actually had the same chipset as the S10. It wasn't a watered down chipset. It wasn't like the G chipset of that time. It was the Qualcomm Snapdragon 855, which was the same exact thing that was on the S10. Now, there was a little bit of difference on the base model in terms of the RAM. So we had 6 gigs of RAM on the base model S10e, but it did go up to 8 gigs of RAM, which was the same thing as the S10. So if you got those specific RAM models, it would have been pretty much the same thing, which is pretty impressive. And the coolest thing is that since this phone's release, we actually have gotten the statement that this thing is going to be getting One UI 4. So it actually got an improvement in the whole entire software lifecycle as well, which means that Google is going to improve on theirs and all these other companies. But all in all, I think the E lineup, the S10e specifically, if we had an S20e or an S21e, that would have been a crazy cool device that still would have been super impressive for a lot of people. I think the A series of devices are definitely, a really good lineup for sure. But I really do miss the E lineup, and I cannot wait if they ever make a new one. That would really be awesome in my opinion. So that really pretty much covers it up. If you guys have any other questions or anything like that, let me know in the comment section below. Hit the like button, that would mean so much, but definitely hit that subscribe button. More importantly than everything else, I love every single one of you guys. Hopefully I'll catch you guys in the next video. Peace out till then.